Hi everybody, in today's video I would like to make a book recommendation for all of you, and I'm talking about this book that I just finished reading recently. It's a beautiful poetry book called Perfect Harmony, Sufi Poetry of Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi was one of the biggest, the greatest Andalusian poets, Sufi masters of medieval Spain, the time of the Al-Andalus, the mythical land, in the times of the Arabic conquest of Spain, the times that the Arabs ruled Spain. He's known as the Shaykh al-Akbar, one of the greatest master, how they call him, within Sufism. And this book is really, I love this book because it's these poems are taken from one of Ibn Arabi's works, known as the Interpreter of Desires. And the beauty of the book, if you could take a quick look, the calligraphy, the book has these beautiful designs, and also we have the poetry right here in Arabic, and also we have the poetry in English. So it's a beautiful design book, and all this beautiful Arabic calligraphy was done by Hazan Mahsoudi, and he's an Iraqi artist. And basically, if you read this, you will really get to know, appreciate Ibn Arabi's poetry. Basically, let me just very briefly mention something about Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi was born, as I mentioned, in Andalusia, Al-Andalus, in Spain between 1165. He died in 1240. He's buried in Syria, in Damascus. And he compiled many different works, among them Spiritual Conquests, The Facets of Wisdom, The Interpreter of Desires, from which these poems are taken. And I will read for you just a brief, just a few verses from the book to illustrate the beauty of Ibn Arabi's poetry. The first one says, the book starts like this. I had just kissed the black stone when some attractive women came hurrying toward me. They had come to perform the ritual rounds, covering their faces with a veil. They uncovered themselves, they who were like the rays of suns. Restrain yourself, they told me, for the soul can be lost in eye contacts. So basically the book is just like a whole story. Ibn Arabi, he left Spain, went to Tunisia, and from there he had this kind of spiritual vision. He received this command, and then he travels to Mecca, in what is today Saudi Arabia, to do the Hajj, the pilgrimage to the Kaaba. And this was around when he was around 30 years old. And then he tells the story when he saw these girls coming, and he was like lost when he saw them. And the story tells us, the whole poetry tells us that he falls in love with this Persian girl, and called Nizam, probably that's the name that they translate here. And he's just like crazy after he saw this girl. And then he tells the story how she lives, after the Hajj was completed. And then after that, he was like saying bye to the caravan that was leaving, and then his heart is like jumping every time he thinks of her. He just like go crazy after that. He can't stop thinking of her, and then he's just like asking people around if anyone knew who this girl was, from which tribe she came from, then the family, everything. And then after that, he starts calling people, asking who is this girl, because he's going mad for her love. So after that, the poetry, beautiful poetry, describes for us how he's drunk with love and going around with these kind of feelings. And then he even stopped different travelers that are going back and forth from Mecca and asking and tell them to give my message, a message of salvation. And there's a story, where he finally finds who is this girl, and he sends her like a secret message and call her to meet him in the desert and come to his tent. And the poetry is like really amazing. I will read for you just briefly, just a few more verses, like this one right here. Before this happens, Ibn Arabi says the same. I believe in the religion of love, whatever direction its caravans may take, for love is my religion and my faith. And later on, he says like this. If what she says is true, and she feels for me the obsessive desire that I feel for her, then, in the sweltering heat of noon, in her tent, in secret, we will meet, to fulfill the promise completely. We will reveal the passion we feel one for the other, as well as the harshness of the trial and the pains of ecstasy. So, when I finished reading this book, I have to confess that it was kind of difficult to understand sometimes, because when we think about the Sufis and we think about like sheikhs, like spirituality and all that, but when we get into their poetry, it's just like this. They talk about women, they talk about love, they talk about this passion, and it's like amazing because what they say is that when they talk about girls and women and all these desires and slave of love and slave of desires and all these, basically they're saying no, we're not talking about really about a woman or a girl. We're talking about the divinity. We're talking about God, and we're trying to say that we are in love with God and the divinity, and our heart is full with love to God and all and His laws and everything. But we use this like the figure of a woman and the girls and this and that just to explain ourselves in this world. And kind of like maybe that's true, but honestly, when I just read this, to me it's just like something that actually happened. Like Ibn Arabi was doing Hajj, and he saw these girls coming. He was like blown out of, he saw the beauty of these girls, and later on he falls in love with this girl and everything that happens, and he tells, and it's like a beautiful and amazing story. And again, it's hard to really think like that, like he's talking about the divinity and God, though maybe yes, we could interpret the poem that way. But the first reading, when you read the book, the first thing that comes to mind is that he's talking for real about a girl, and he's falling in love with this girl, and he's like going crazy for her love. But I guess we could say that it's kind of mystical poetry. Maybe yes, they are talking about the divinity and God and all of this. Though I have to say the poems are really, really beautiful, really interesting poetry. Again, I recommend to you this book. You can get it online, you can get it on Amazon, eBay, and it's a really beautiful calligraphy, beautiful decorations. And again, you have it in Arabic, you have it in English, so it's like a beautiful book. And for all of you that who likes poetry, if you like Sufi poetry, Arabic poetry, and especially from the Andalusian masters, the famous poets from Spain, from the time of the Caliphate and all the mythical time known as Al-Andalus, during this age, I really recommend to you this book, Perfect Harmony, Sufi Poetry by Ibn Arabi, one of the greatest, how they call him the greatest master. That's how they call him within Sufism. So this is my recommendation. I hope that you like this video. Again, you can get the book online. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you in the next video.